Hello, my name is Dean Contover, and this is the Current Buzz. Today we have Dr. Jay Lang. He's a superintendent of schools in Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Correct.
And you're going to be staying here for a while.
Correct.
Is that right? Are you going to be moving into Chelmsford? I always ask you that question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we're actually, kind of happy where we are. My kids
Yeah.
are still going through school. So, we wouldn't contemplate a move until the kids were all done school.
Okay.
But I'm only one town away. I'm in Lowell right next door, so it's not like a long commute or anything.
Yeah.
And, it's worked pretty well for us. So, no, for the time being, we're planning on staying where we are.
COVID-19 has come up, and
Yeah.
you're wearing a mask, and I'm not wearing a mask. I've had my 2 shots, so I feel I'm safe. So I
Okay.
just want to let you know.
Okay.
And we're 6 feet apart, so that's important. And I know you should want to set an example.
Right, yeah, we've been,
the teachers.
COVID has kind of, turned the school system, upside down a little
Right.
bit. Things have been much different this year than have been in previous years. And I think one of the reasons we've been able to stay in school over the course of this year and keep in-person learning happening is because we have taken a lot of precautions to keep everyone, our staff and students safe. We do wear masks in the school all day. We maintain 6-foot distancing within classrooms. We have a lot of, hand hygiene and washing of the hands and whatnot. And we've really put a lot of precautions in place to be successful, and I think it's worked pretty well for us.
Good. It seems like it's working, yeah.
Yeah, we have basically been in person for the majority of the school year. We did take a couple of days coming back after the 2-week Christmas recess, the winter recess, to kind of get our
Bearings.
our bearings straight, be able to kind of reach out to some of those families who we had any questions with regarding contact tracing coming back from the holidays. But really, those are the only 2 days that we went remote. We've had in-person learning on the other days.
Okay.
So I think we've been very successful. I think we want to keep that up for the spring. It's now, the first week in March. We've still got a couple of months of school left. We'd like to gradually start to increase some additional in-person learning. We're going to be scaling from 4 days a week to 5 days a week towards the middle of March, and then looking for even additional in-person learning come April, May, and June.
Wow.
Trying to get back to a more normal
Yeah.
schedule before the end of the school year
Yeah.
to set us up in good shape for the fall.
Now, speaking of COVID, the governor has stated that teachers will be prioritized. Do you have anything in writing yet from the state?
No, I think actually, ironically, there was a press conference this morning that talked about that. So the president yesterday actually alluded to it in his address to the nation, that he urged states to really prioritize teachers as first-line workers. And I believe there were still 20 states in the country that hadn't done that. So there was just a press conference this morning where teachers and any K-12 educators are now going to be kind of the next phase. And it's my understanding that as of Thursday, March 11th, they'll be able to register and start to receive the vaccine. So we have had some teachers who have qualified under the different phases to date, but as of Thursday, March 11th, it's my understanding that all K-12 educators, all of our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our custodians, our food service workers would be able to qualify and register and receive the vaccine.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's really welcome news, and I think that's kind of critical to us being able to move forward and start to open our schools more. I know our staff are going to feel more comfortable if they have the vaccine and they have access to it. So we're very much looking forward to that.
Let me ask you this question. Have you gotten your vaccine yet?
I did have a first dose, yes.
First dose. Okay, so you're going to get your second.
Yes.
All right. All right. I wanted to ask you this question at the beginning, but we got talked about other things. One, what is remote learning for the people who don't have children in the high school, the middle school, the elementary school? Explain what remote learning is as simple as possible so people who are watching the show will understand when you say remote learning or when they say it on the radio or TV, what it really actually means.
For remote learning, for like people who are watching who don't necessarily have students involved
That's
in schools.
correct, yeah, simple.
Sure, so we set up 2 different options for our families to choose from for this year. One option was to be remote, which would mean 5 days a week, they would basically participate in school from home, that they would come into the classrooms electronically. We use Google and Google Meets and Google Classroom. So they, from their home, actually come into the classroom. We have other students that elected for hybrid. So we didn't have enough capacity early in the school year, and still to date, we don't have enough room to be able to bring everyone back and maintain the 6-foot distancing. So we had a hybrid option, which was
So
basically.
that's the other terminology.
Yes, so it's
hybrid.
you're either remote or you're
Or
hybrid.
hybrid, okay.
So hybrid would mean you'd come in 2 days a week, and then you would be home for 3 days a week. So we have cohort A, which comes on Monday and Tuesday, and then everyone is remote on Wednesday, and then cohort B comes in on Thursday and Friday.
I see.
And it was our way to split the students because we just didn't have enough capacity for everyone to come at the same time. So if you're in hybrid, that means you're in school some of the time and you're working from home some of the time. But that is the hybrid option. The second option was to just be fully remote the entire time. So we do have some students who have been fully remote. Again, they kind of dial or Zoom into their classrooms and participate with the other students in the classrooms. Those students who selected to be fully remote are able to remain remote for the duration of this school year. So even if we start to increase learning in schools, those students can still stay fully remote. Our hybrid students are some of the students that we're trying to bring back more in person. So we're going to try to transition from, say, 2 days to 3 days a week.
Oh, okay.
Even try to extend our day. We have our students still going home right before lunchtime. So they go home for lunch.
That's so they won't mingle at lunchtime, is that?
Yeah, well, it was trying to keep the groups, smaller.
Okay.
So that's been happening, but we're getting to the point where we want to look into lengthening the school day, so trying to get back to a more normal school day. And so that's all in the works. We met with the school committee last night, and we laid out a phased approach to trying to increase some additional in-person learning. And that's going to be beginning with our first step, which is adding Wednesdays, because Wednesday's has been a full remote day.
Right.
Our first step is going to be to add Wednesday as an alternating cohort. So 1 week, Group A will come 3 days, so they might come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Group B will come Thursday, Friday. And we'll
Wow,
flip it.
okay.
So the next week, Group A comes Monday, Tuesday, and Group B will get the extra day, so they'll come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Just as a way to get more in-person learning
Yeah,
in the schools.
interesting. How are your teachers handling this? I mean, are they doing okay? I mean,
Yeah, they have been phenomenal. This has been a very stressful year
it
for
has
everyone.
been. No doubt.
Education, I mentioned earlier, has kind of been, turned upside down. We very quickly have had to adapt since last spring. We're almost coming up on the 1-year anniversary. It was March 13th last year when we ended up going out of school, and then we didn't come back for the rest of the school year. But our teachers had to very quickly adapt to online learning, to using different electronic tools and software packages. We purchased a lot of technology in the district. We have, Chromebooks and computers for the staff and students that need them when they're at home. We have interactive TVs in the classroom so that if you're a teacher and you have, say, 8 or 10 students in front of you, and you have 8 or 10 students who are remote, they're up on the TV so that both they can see the classroom and the classroom can see them. Our teachers and support staff, paras and whatnot, have really done a phenomenal job this year of learning all this new technology, integrating it. They're doing a great job. It has been a very stressful, though, and exhausting year for everyone.
No
So,
doubt about it. I mean, even for the students,
for the students and
let's
everyone.
give-
Yeah,
yeah.
everyone across the board, I think, has really done
Parents?
as about the best they can. Parents have been super supportive. The parents have been, helping us and really a partner because the kids have been home, for 2 or 3 days a week. So they've been helping on that end. I think, we all kind of see a little bit of light on the horizon
Right.
and trying to get back to, again, more of a regular type of scheduling for this late spring and hopefully next fall. So I think everyone's looking forward to that.
The question I have is in regards to non-English speakers. I don't know what the terminology is.
English language learners.
English language. That's going to be difficult. I mean, how many do you have in the system at this moment?
It's funny. So this is my 6th year here. And when I first arrived, we had just over 100 students that were classified as English language learners.
Right.
And as of earlier this week, when we were looking at numbers, we are up to 255.
Wow.
So,
That
we've
many?
more than doubled our L population in just over 5 years.
Is that because of the new apartments that are being put in, do you think?
No, I think, you know what, there's,
110?
I think just in the greater Chelmsford community, there is a lot more diversity and just, change within demographics and populations.
Yeah.
I think Chelmsford is an attractive community when it comes to schooling and public safety, and there is just a very nice kind of sense of community here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just appreciate that and like it. There has been a number of developments taking place in town. We've seen different condo complexes and apartments and
Right.
even new homes being built. So there's a lot of action happening in town, and I think it's an attractive location.
Is that going to put added burden on some of the elementary schools in regards to these new complexes coming in?
Yeah, we watched that because, for instance, there's a new development out on Littleton Road that would technically, it's across from the Enterprise Bank. It would
Yeah.
technically feed the Byam Elementary School. So that's a development that we're watching because the Byam has always been near capacity.
Yeah.
There was a development recently that opened up on Turnpike that actually would have been routed to Center Elementary School. It would have been part of the Center grouping configuration, but we actually really didn't have capacity at Center. So if we do have students in that particular development, we have capacity at South Row. So they would actually be districted to South Row. And our buses run the same way on
Yeah,
that particular
yeah,
road.
yeah.
So we would do little things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as a district, our enrollment overall is pretty flat. We're right around 5,000 students. We're still seeing a little bit of a decline at the high school level, but we're seeing an increase at the elementary level. So those are offsetting to keep our enrollment relatively consistent for the next 2 or 3 years. I think in 25, 26 is when we actually start to see a little uptick in enrollment because the high school will have leveled out, and we will be now seeing that increase in elementary to middle.
Is that because of 2009 in regards to the depression that we had in 2009? More people were home. It's just like more babies are being born because of the COVID. That's my understanding.
Well, I don't know. I can't speak to that.
No, but yeah.
I mean, we work with a group every year that comes in and helps us do an updated enrollment projection. It's something we watch closely. A lot of it is tied to birth rates and, mobility within communities, so they do
Right.
that analysis for us. And every year, we kind of take a look at where we're at, where we're the trajectory, where we're going to be going, because we do need to make sure that we have enough capacity at the elementary, the middle, and then ultimately the high school level when the students get there.
Excuse me. Yeah. In regards to the high school, Boston Magazine, September 2020, states that Chelmsford High School is 30th. Some say 31st, but I saw 30th.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, the high school's doing a great job. I think, we have seen our rankings in, some of those different magazines, whether it be U.S. World Reports or Boston Magazine or whatnot, in that 30 range. And I think a lot of it has to do with the programming that we offer at the high school. We offer multiple levels of programming. Our AP courses are very well subscribed. We have an array of AP courses that, they look for when they're making those determinations. We added our dual enrollment programming at the high school in partnership with Middlesex Community College a
Is
couple
that
of years
still going
back.
on?
It is, yeah.
is?
It's
Oh,
actually
okay.
increasing, and our enrollment in
is.
those programs are increasing year
Even
over
though
year.
with COVID.
Yeah, because the students are still at the high school taking the programs, and we're able to offer more sections and
Right.
even more offerings. And I do see over the next year or two, what we're going to try to align is all the different courses that we're offering now into a kind of program or a pathway for students, so that in a couple of years, I think we'll have enough capacity to basically be able to route a student through the high school so that they're earning Chelmsford High School credit, while at the same time, coming close or earning an associate's degree if they
Wow.
want to as they're approaching graduation
Wow.
from the high school.
Yeah.
We have to build capacity and make sure that we're offering enough courses and we
Yeah.
have enough offerings for the students, but that's the direction we're trying to go in.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of questions. Let me ask you this question. How many years have you been here now? It's
This is my 6th.
6th year.
Yeah.
Good. And your contract is till?
I have 2 years after this on my contract still,
Okay.
so I still go to 2023.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to know because I thought it was 5 years. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I originally came on with a 3-year contract,
Mm-hmm.
and then when my contract was up for renewal, the school committee and I worked on a 5-year contract.
Right.
So the 5-year contract would end in '23. So I've got still 2 years left on it, but I very much like it here, and I plan to be here for the long run.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's
Yeah.
good to hear. Yeah. Substitute teachers, I mean, how is that faring?
Student teachers?
Substitute teachers.
Oh, substitutes.
And how can they be, how can you get more? I mean, you're probably short substitute teachers, are you?
Yes, so substitute teachers and just staffing in general this year has been difficult for not only us, but every school system,
I
just
see.
because of availability of staff.
Right.
So we, up to last year, we actually used to employ subs, and our rate was $75 per day we were paying them, which was on the middle end of our surrounding towns, but we
Yeah.
wanted to try to be a little bit more competitive to attract more subs
Right.
and have a better pool to pull from. So we actually, for this past year, increased our rate to $90 a day.
Wow, that's not bad.
So we're on the higher end now of the day-to-day subs.
Yeah.
The only issue that we ran into, and again, most districts are running into this, is, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah, subs.
We don't want subs, on every given day, they used to take a look at what the assignments were, and maybe they would sign up to go to Byam one day, and Center
I
another
see.
day, and the high school another day. We went to building-based subs this year. So we really didn't want to have a lot of adults or extra adults coming in and out of the buildings. We
Right.
wanted them to be part of that learning community. So if you were a sub and you wanted to work, say, 3 days a week or 5 days a week, we would hire you to do that, but we would make you a building-based sub, say at Byam. So every
Makes
day that
sense.
you're working, you actually just report to Byam, and then you're part of that community. You do get to know the students, you get to know the staff, and it was also just less adults coming and going from the buildings.
Good point.
So that we had a little bit more control on that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of an anomaly as far as the year is
So
concerned.
it's $90.
Yes, they get paid $90 per day.
Do you have to have a bachelor's degree to sub, or?
Yes, you do need a bachelor's degree. Yes.
It doesn't have to be in education.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It just any college degree, any bachelor's degree.
Well,
to-
$90 for how many hours? I mean,
Yeah, it's about a 6.5 hour day.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair, and again, we always just look to be competitive in the Merrimack
Because
Valley.
I think Lowell was 110 or 100 or something like
Lowell
that.
has a different structure
Yeah, I know
because
that.
they actually try to recruit retired teachers as well, so they have
Yeah.
a different tier. So I think a bachelor's substitute in Lowell is very similar to ours, it's around 90. But they do have a bump that's like 100 or 110.
Yeah, I think
If
so.
you were a
If you're-
retired teacher from Lowell,
That's
then
right.
they try to recruit you back to do
Good
that.
point. Before I end, it's getting down.
It's
there
already
in
getting
time.
down? Wow.
Yeah, I know. When you're having fun. Chelmsford High football, what's the status now?
Yeah, you know what, we were blessed this whole year. We were able to offer our athletic programs, even in the midst of everything happening. There were a lot of modifications and changes we had to make. But some of our fall sports, the MIAA came up with a Fall 2 schedule. So that actually just started the Monday after February vacation.
Okay.
So this is the second week that they've been going. So we're offering football right now. The kids came and tried out, and they're practicing, and I think they're going to have their first scrimmage actually next week, and it's going to be about a 7-week season. So they'll play a game a week for 7 weeks. They'll run right up to April school vacation week,
Right.
and I'm excited that they're able to do it.
We're going to have school vacation?
Oh, yes, we're going to have school vacation.
Okay.
And then after the school vacation is when we'll transition to the spring sports. So the
Right.
spring sports season got pushed a little bit later than normally.
I see.
So we're trying to get all the different seasons in.
Is the schedule out for the football team?
It's on the website.
It's on the website?
Yeah, if you
okay.
go to the website and you go to athletics, I just don't know the exact schedule,
Yeah, no,
but
I
it's
understand.
posted
Yeah, I'll
online.
look it up. Let's see, MCAS testing, what's the story on that?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk about that. We're still kind of monitoring news. We have heard that there will be MCAS testing this spring. So that is something that the federal government and state government want to have. They're going to shorten the length of the tests. So some of our tests used to be, say, a 2-day test.
Right.
So they're condensing it to a 1-day test.
I see.
So students in grades 3 to 8, and then our sophomores at the high school, say for mathematics, would just have 1 day that they're testing.
Right.
For ELA, English Language Arts, they would have 1 day, where in past years, they may have had 2. So it will be condensed a little bit.
Do you agree with that? I mean, do you think?
I do not agree with it as far as, I don't think this is the year to
Yeah,
be
I agree
focusing
with
on
you too.
Testing.
Yeah.
I think if the state is going to have the testing and we're going to use it as a diagnostic to figure out where the kids are at and what we might need to provide for additional supports or remedial work going into next year, I think it's okay to have some type of an assessment. I don't think it's appropriate to be using that as any kind of a tool to basically look school to school, year over year, or even district to district as a comparison, because the programming that's been occurring in districts is so vastly different. I don't think that would be equitable. So if it's used as a diagnostic, I could see that and see some value in it to help us prepare for next year. But I don't think it should be used, to kind of level districts or rate districts in any way for comparative purposes.
Yeah, I just, it didn't bode well with me.
Right. See, we're fortunate in Chelmsford. We have our own internal diagnostic systems. We have our own assessments for the students. So I would be fine if we didn't have MCAS, because I know where the kids are at, and we can already be focusing on next year and where we need to go.
Right.
There are some districts that don't have that. So I can see where the state would want to have an assessment. Again, personally, I don't think we need it for next year. If we're required to participate, we would have to participate. I'm at least happy that it's going to be a condensed test and a condensed schedule, so that we're not tying up a lot of our in-person time on testing. But I just hope it's used for the right purpose, and it's used to prepare for next year and identifying what gaps are and what needs are, as opposed to kind of rating or ranking schools and school systems. I don't think that's fair.
Anything on the new high school in regards to coming down the Turnpike? I know you put paperwork in, or how's
do.
that? What's the process in that? If you
Yeah.
can explain it.
We've actually applied three times now, 3 years in a row. It's an annual process.
Right.
We actually haven't heard back on last year's application. I think when COVID hit, normally it would be the spring when you were here. I actually haven't even heard about another round of applications from the MSBA,
Right.
the Mass School Building Authority, who would run that program. So that's something we're going to have to follow up with kind of post-COVID. We talked a little bit at the school committee meeting last night about kind of refocusing and relooking at our capital plan, our 10-year plan for short and long-term buildings and where we want to go. You know, ideally, I'd love that project to be able to advance with the MSBA. It still could be a few years down the line to try to get into the pipeline. It does take some time. It's something we're watching, but I just think the state is going to be a little bit, I don't know if they're going to have the availability to fund as many projects as they normally would going forward. So that's what we're going to have to watch.
In regards to money, you think is that?
Well, it's
basically-
money from the state level, you know, because they are the ones that would actually fund.
How much would the state pay for that? I mean, what's?
It's all based on a community's ability
I
to
see.
pay. There's a formula.
I see.
Chelmsford would qualify for about a 50% reimbursement. So if we were to build a $100 million building, you know, Chelmsford would have to pay $50 million and the state would pay $50 million. So every community's percentage varies a little bit, but Chelmsford is right around 50%. So it's certainly, you know, absolutely worth doing. We wouldn't be able to build a $100 million building on our own.
Yeah,
We
right.
would need the state's assistance. So you
Right.
have to kind of get into that pipeline to qualify for funding and then eventually get your project advanced.
Right. Somerville just had, I mean, I go to these towns and they all have new high schools. And,
A lot do have
you
new
know,
high schools. If you even look around us, you know, Drake
Billerica.
did a major renovation.
Yep.
You know, they have a new portions of the building. Billerica is beautiful.
Yep.
I was out to
Have-
tour that
yeah, have you?
building.
Yeah.
Lowell's in the middle of building theirs. Tewksbury has a brand-new building. Theirs is a few years old. So a lot of our towns really do have very state-of-the-art high schools.
Yeah, I think now if it was a new high school, you'd have high-end in regards to filtration systems, and after COVID-19,
Yep.
you'd have to
We've-
double it probably. It
we've had to
probably cost more money.
Yeah, we've had to retrofit a lot of our existing systems. I
Right.
think the town and the contractors have done a
Good
very
point.
nice job with that. But yeah, new buildings have, you know, different systems, different specifications you would build to.
Right.
Different codes that weren't in existence in, you know, the 50s or 60s when some of our buildings were built. Sometimes, ironically, the more sophisticated or the newer the system, the more complex it is to run and the
I
harder
see.
it is to run. So sometimes when you go back to just a basic system and you do modifications to it with your filtering and your, whatchamacallit?
Intake and
Well, the
all that
intake and
type
even
of-
just the balancing of the
Yeah,
system.
right.
Sometimes it's easier on an old system as
Right.
opposed to some of these systems now that are 100% mechanically and computer controlled.
Yeah, I know, it's computer controlled, and 50 years from now, that
Yeah.
computer system will not be there. But
Right.
I have a minute left.
Okay.
What should I know that's going on in the school system that I haven't talked about?
You covered a lot. In a half an hour, it's amazing
Yeah,
how
I
much
know.
you can actually cover topic-wise. I think it's, you know, from my perspective, it's just, this has been certainly an anomaly of a year. You know, I don't think anyone in education has ever seen a year in schooling like this. I am so appreciative of the staff who really from day one have stepped up to make this school year the very best school year it can be for students. I want to just acknowledge that people are working harder than they ever have. They've adapted to the needs of the students, the needs of the community. You mentioned parents earlier. Parents have been very supportive of the programming and helped out, and they've
But
enabled
they've
this to
always
happen.
been supportive over the years.
They have, but this has been difficult for
Yeah.
parents too, because
Yeah.
their schedules have been adjusted.
Yeah.
They may have students home with them now 2 or 3 days a week, or if you picked remote, 5 days a week. So it's hard to work and have kids at home. Everyone has just been, you know, I think understanding and I think looks to the future. trying to get back to more
What about
in-person
the
learning and
mental
more
health of
regular
the
school.
student? What's that? Short period, I have 20 seconds.
No, mental health is an issue,
Yeah.
and I think our counseling staff and whatnot have done a nice job trying to reach out, maintain connections with families, re-engage students who are struggling, who aren't engaging in school, and that's going to be a lot of the work this spring and summer.
All right, I'd like to thank you for coming. Why I didn't wear a mask is because I had 2 shots, and you had to wear a mask because you only had 1 shot. When you
Well,
have
thank
2,
you, Dean.
then yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it very much. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
And your